When you think about mythology, your mind probably goes to these vertical hierarchies. You know the structure. There's a sky god on top dropping down commands,
Right.
then a king on a throne, and all the authority just sort of trickles down. We're taught to look up for power.
It's the standard model, really.
But the texts we're digging into today, specifically from Yoruba cosmology, they force us to completely flip that axis. We're not looking up, we're looking down.
And that is a fundamental shift in perspective. You know, in the Western canon, the earth is often just the stage.
Yeah, where the action happens.
Exactly. But in the Yoruba worldview, the earth is the drama. It's the container, it's the judge, and it is the source of everything.
And we're looking at a force that actually predates the famous sky gods. A power so vast that in the Genesis stories, even the creator has to reckon with it.
Yes. We are talking about Ìyàmi Òṣòròngà.
People.
And it's a topic where we have to tread really carefully because the translations, especially the early colonial ones, have just done a massive disservice to the concept.
Right, because you look in older anthropology texts or bibliographies, and you just see one word over and over, witch.
Witch. And that word carries so much baggage.
It does. It brings up this caricature, you know, brooms, cauldrons, some marginalized figure in a hut.
Which is precisely why we have to dismantle that term before we go any further. The sources for this deep dive, which are things like the Ifa literary corpus and studies on the Egboni society, they make it absolutely clear Ìyàmi is not a witch in the Halloween sense.
So what are we talking about then?
We're talking about the primordial mothers. This is a cosmological principle. It governs the actual machinery of existence. Conception, birth, and crucially, the recycling of life back into death.
So calling it witchcraft feels like calling a nuclear reactor a potbelly stove. The scale is just completely wrong. But let's start with the name itself, because the linguistics seem to carry a warning. Ìyàmi. That translates to my mother, doesn't it?
It does, but we have to be really careful with the tone there. In a tonal language like Yoruba, and in the culture, this isn't the sentimental mommy you call when you scrape your knee.
Okay.
It's modified. It's meant to express a kind of sacred fear.
Sacred fear, that's an interesting way to put it.
Well, think of the ocean. You can love the ocean, you can depend on it for food, but you never, ever turn your back on it.
Right. You don't disrespect it.
You don't disrespect it. That's the kind of mother we're talking about. It's an acknowledgement of this absolute dependence on a power you cannot control.
And the second part of the name, Òṣòròngà. What's that about?
That's a compound word. You have Osso, which can mean mystery or spell, and Aran, which is the spiritual dimension, or sky.
So?
Mothers of the celestial mysteries. It implies they hold the keys to the invisible operations of the universe.
The back-end code.
In a way, yeah. And that brings us right back to that really problematic word, Aja.
Okay.
When you see Aja translated as witchcraft, it implies malice. But the text suggests Aja is really about capability. It's the power of transformation. It's the ability to use I.
Let's pause on that because I want to make sure we separate those two terms. You said Aa and Aja.
Correct. They're related, but distinct. A is the fuel. It's the vital life force, the Soviet power that makes anything happen.
Okay, the raw energy.
The raw energy. And I refers to the beings, specifically the feminine principle, that have the authorization to wield that fuel. You can have a tank full of gas, but if you don't have the engine, the car goes nowhere.
The mothers are the engine.
They are the engines.
And that distinction is really clear in the creation myth, the cosmological Genesis. The sources describe this division of labor between the male deity, Ọbàtálá, and the mothers.
Well, it's less a division of labor and more a distinction of capability. In the ìtàn, the narratives, the supreme source, Olódùmarè, delegates the creation of humanity. And Ọbàtálá, the deity of purity in the sky, he gets the task of molding the physical forms. He works the clay.
He's the sculptor. He makes the shape.
Precisely. He creates the shell. But, and the text is very explicit here, Ọbàtálá can make the shape, but he cannot make it live.
He can't turn it on.
He can't. The power to breathe Emi, the vital breath, that spark of consciousness, was not given to the male deities. That power resides solely with the ancestral feminine energies.
But why? Why that split? If Ọbàtálá is this high-ranking arch-divinity, why handicap him like that?
I don't think it's seen as a handicap. It's a recognition of, well, biological and spiritual reality. Life comes from the womb.
From the interior?
From the interior. You can build a beautiful house, but you can't force a family to live inside it and make it a home. The interior life, the blood, the breath, the gestation, that is the domain of the mothers.
So one provides the structure.
And the other provides the essence. And that essence is dual. This is where scholars like Pierre Fatumbi Verger really emphasize that Ìyàmi is not just the creator.
She's also the destroyer.
She is the swallower. The earth gives you the harvest, but the earth also consumes the dead body. You simply cannot have one without the other.
Which brings us to this idea of the matrix of existence. From the notes, it says Ìyàmi wasn't created. That completely breaks the standard God created the angels hierarchy we're all used to.
It does. In deep cosmology, she is the Elolo, the deep primordial earth. She is like the background radiation of the universe. In some narratives, the very duality of male and female, Ọbàtálá and Odùduwà, they emerge from her.
So she's the canvas that all the other gods are painting on.
She is the canvas and the paint. And when this force manifests in our visible world, it doesn't just show up as a woman in a robe, it appears as nature. The texts list specific avatars.
The birds are a big one. The leka-leki, the owl.
Yes, the bird, the Aya. But it's not just about flight. It's about the ability to move between dimensions.
Between worlds.
The bird travels between the earth, the physical market, and the sky, the spiritual realm. It symbolizes surveillance.
Surveillance.
The owl watches in the dark. The idea is that nothing is hidden from the mothers. You might hide something from your neighbor, maybe even from the king. But the birds of the night see everything.
And what about the calabash, the Ado?
Yeah.
It seems like such a simple thing, a gourd, but it appears in rituals constantly.
The calabash is a universe in miniature. It has a top half and a bottom half that fit together perfectly, sky and earth. But most importantly, it's a container.
The womb.
The womb, yes, but also the tomb. It holds the secret. When you close a calabash, you are sealing power. You are saying, I have the authority to hold this force.
Okay, so we have this cosmic force that breathes life into us, watches everything we do, and holds the power of both the womb and the tomb. That is terrifying on a mythological level.
It's immense.
So how do people live with that? How do you build a city when the very ground you're walking on is a sentient power?
You have to institutionalize that relationship. You can't just ignore it. And this is where we move from the cosmic to the political. In Yoruba society, this power finds its civic expression in the Ogbe society.
More commonly known as the Egboni.
The Egboni, yeah.
And this is where the political theory gets really fascinating. We think of a king, an Oba, as the ultimate authority.
And he is. He is the ultimate vertical authority. The king gets his legitimacy from the sky, from Obàduwa. He represents the celestial order, the divine right, if you will.
But the Egboni represents the earth.
Correct. The Egboni holds the horizontal O. They represent the community, the soil, the mothers. And there is a fundamental constitutional rule here, a proverb. The king does not eat the land without the hand of Ogbo.
Let's unpack eat the land. I'm guessing that's an idiom for governing.
It means exercising power. The king cannot rule, he cannot prosper, he effectively cannot be a monarch without the sanction of the earth. If a king becomes a tyrant, if he violates taboos...
If he abuses his power.
It is the Egboni's job to check him.
How? I mean, what's the mechanism?
It's not a strongly worded letter. Because the Egboni represents the mothers, they have the power to literally reject the king. Historically, this could involve a ritual command for the king to open the calabash.
Which is a euphemism.
It's a euphemism for committing ritual suicide or abdicating.
Wow. So if the earth rejects you, your reign is just over.
It creates a perfect balance. The king looks up to the heavens for inspiration, but he must look down to the earth for permission. It prevents autocracy. It reminds the ruler that political power ultimately rests on the consent of the earth itself, which means the people and the environment.
And the symbol for this society, the Eden. It's two figures on a chain. Why a chain?
Right. The Eden bowl, they're usually cast in brass, which doesn't rust, symbolizing permanence. You have a male figure and a female figure, and they're linked. It represents that indissoluble union.
Can't separate them.
You cannot separate the man from the woman, the sky from the earth, or the king from the community.
It's a physical reminder that you can't go it alone.
And a warning. When the society meets, or when they judge a very serious crime, they place the Eden on the ground.
And that must change the whole nature of an oath, right? In a Western court, you put your hand on a Bible. You swear something up there.
Exactly. You're swearing by a distant divinity. But in the Egboni tradition, when you swear on the Eden or just on the bare earth, Ilu, you are swearing on the very thing that is holding you up. The belief is that the earth is a sentient witness. It absorbs your vibrations. If you lie while standing on the earth knows.
That makes the consequences feel so much more immediate. You can maybe hide from a sky god. You can't hide from the floor.
The saying is that the earth will eventually swallow the traitor. It enforces a level of honesty and integrity that's hard to replicate with just abstract laws. It deals with crimes that bleed the earth.
Like homicide.
Homicide, yes. Spilling blood is a direct offense against the mothers because they are the owners of blood.
So, okay, we have the creation of life, the mother's domain. We have the maintenance of justice on earth, also the mother's domain. But there's a third major player here we have to talk about. Runmila, the deity of wisdom.
Yes, witness to destiny.
And usually wisdom and power are seen as the same thing. You know, if you know everything, you can do everything. But the Yoruba texts seem to split these two things up.
They separate them very sharply. And this is such a crucial insight. Runmila possesses the wisdom. He has the map. He knows the destiny of every single person. But he does not possess the raw fuel to physically alter that destiny.
He's got the blueprints, but he doesn't have the bricks.
Or the labor force. The mothers, they are the alagba, and that translates to the executors, or even those who get paid to do the work.
So if I go to a priest, a babalawo, and he casts Ifa and says, you need to offer this sacrifice to fix your problem, he's just writing the prescription.
He is writing the prescription. He's diagnosing the cosmic issue. But the ajedar are the pharmacists. They are the ones who decide if the medicine will actually be dispensed. If the mothers refuse the sacrifice, the offering, it doesn't manifest. It fails.
And why would they refuse?
Because of character, or a lack of acknowledgement, or because the cosmic balance requires something else entirely. This interdependence is what leads to the Great Pact.
The ìtàn, the story that explains why humans aren't just constantly being crushed by this raw power.
Right. The story goes that in the beginning, the mothers were operating with unchecked severity. They were raw nature. Hurricanes, droughts, sudden death.
It's just total volatility.
Exactly. And humans were suffering. They couldn't build. They couldn't thrive. So they went to Runmila. They asked for protection. Now, Runmila is wise. He knew he couldn't defeat the mothers. You don't declare war on gravity.
You can't punch an earthquake.
You can't. So he negotiated. He used wisdom to create an Edahun, a pact. He invited the mothers to a great congress, and the terms were very specific.
What were they?
Humans would offer reverence, specifically the oba, the homage. They would respect the taboos of nature. They would always acknowledge the mothers in their rituals.
And in exchange for this respect?
In exchange, the mothers agreed to moderate their power. They agreed to become more of a judicial force than a chaotic one. They would only strike those who broke cosmic laws or social oaths.
So it turned raw, random destruction into a system of justice.
It became the foundation of peace in the cosmos. It's a treaty between wisdom, which is order, and power, which is energy or even chaos. And it's why, even today, in traditional practice, you cannot perform a major ritual for any other deity without first setting aside a portion for the mothers.
You have to pay the toll to the owners of the road.
You have to.
It really reframes the role of the wisdom god. He's not the king of the universe. He's the diplomat keeping the universe from tearing itself apart.
He ensures that power is guided by wisdom. Because there is a proverb, wisdom without power is ineffective, but power without wisdom is destructive.
You need the map and the fuel.
You need both.
This whole system, then, from the first breath of life to the check on the king's power, it really seems to be about one thing: balance.
Absolute balance.
Yep.
And acknowledgement of your source.
So for the person listening to this, someone who might not be, navigating the politics of a Yoruba kingdom, but is navigating their own modern life, what's the takeaway here? Why does this matter?
I think the relevance is in that distinction between knowing and being. We live in an era of information overload. We are all drowning in wisdom. or at least in data. We have the maps. We know we should eat better. We know we should fix the climate. We know how to be better people.
But we don't do it.
We lack the connection to the eight, the vital force. We've prioritized the sky, the intellect, the cloud, the data, and we've completely neglected the earth.
The body, the environment.
The execution. The Yoruba worldview insists that if you ignore the mothers, if you ignore biological and environmental reality, all your clever plans will simply fail.
You need the earth to sanction your actions. You can't just think your way into a better reality. You have to birth it.
And you have to respect the container, respect the limits of the calabash.
That is a lot to process. I want to leave the listener with one final image to mull over. We spend so much of our lives looking up.
Obsessed with the vertical.
We look up to leaders. We look up to the sky for the weather. We look up to the cloud for our digital lives. But this tradition teaches that the most potent, the most nurturing, and the most terrifying power isn't above us. It's the very thing touching the soles of our shoes. The earth isn't just dirt. It's a witness.
And a judge.
If you really believed, truly internalized, that the ground you walk on was keeping a record of your integrity, that it was a living membrane connecting you to the source of all life, how differently would you walk?
That is the ultimate question.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
Always a pleasure.